Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. I'm your host, Kevin Timms. My co-host Dale is back today as well. We're back with part 2 of our wide receiver rankings. Top 12 guys here. Wide receivers are great. Love these guys. We talked about 6 guys each yesterday. Gave our top 6. My number 6 was kind of a cheat because he kind of belonged here with this next group of guys that we're going to be talking about today. But, it is what it is. Wide receivers, great asset for Dynasty right now. It feels like they're a dime a dozen, but even still, this back half of the top 12, they're very valuable. You want the potential of the next Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, right? Those superstars that are going to carry your team to a title. That's what we're trying to get here. And as much as I like Amari Cooper or Christian Kirk, who finished very well last year in the final rankings of everything, they didn't really carry you to a title. And, all the guys we're going to talk about here today have that potential still. So that said, Dale, how we doing today?
I'm doing very good. I'm just excited to talk about these old wide receivers and the new age ones that are gonna eventually jump over these old guys.
Yeah, we got the up and comers. We talked about basically the up and comers are in tier 1 for everybody because they've already arrived. Honestly. They're already here.
That's true. That's true.
But there's some guys we're going to talk about here today that I agree with you. They have the potential to jump up there and join this next tier, guys. Just over a week away from the NFL draft. Pretty exciting. Yeah. This is coming out on Tuesday, so at that point we've got a week and 2 days. Oh, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I wonder if there's going to be trades. Spoiler alert.
There's going to be so many trades.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. We're recording this a little bit early, so if there's been anything Monday or Tuesday, we have not seen it yet. So, we'll react to that in time, but, hopefully... NFL's been so boring the last couple of weeks. Everyone's just nailing down their final prep for the NFL draft, but maybe somebody's going to be fun and spice it up. We'll see. We will see. All right. So that said, we will jump into our 7 through 12 here, and I'll just kick it off here. I did talk about it already. Cooper Kupp was my number 6 guy. I talked about him yesterday. But he was in a tier of guys for me that are all older, but they're all very, very good players who are probably going to win you a title, right? I've got Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, and Stephon Diggs. Now, Devontae Adams is 30, just turned 30, but all 3 of these guys are, all 4 of them, I guess, if you add in Cooper Kupp, they are 29. They're all older. They're very, very good players, though. So, you'll love to see that. I'll kick it off here with Devontae Adams first. He's my number 7 guy. But you look at his fantasy finishes ever since 2016, he's only had 2 seasons outside of the top 12. 2019, I think he got injured, and then Aaron Rodgers also got injured that year, if I remember right. So it was kind of a combination there. But the dude's just been unstoppable the last couple seasons. Finishes the number 3 last year, first year with Vegas. Now everyone's a little concerned about him losing Derek Carr, but they literally replaced Derek Carr with Derek Carr 2.0 and Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, these guys are the same guy. You could call him Jimmy Carr or you could call him Derek Garoppolo. It doesn't matter. They're the same person, right? So I think Devontae Adams is going to be just fine for this offense. They did bring in Jacoby Myers, but they got rid of Darren Waller, who was probably the number 1 competition for targets for Devontae Adams. So I don't really see much changing. That he's not going to get 160 plus targets this upcoming season. Double-digit touchdowns every year except for 2019. Again, the dude's just a stud, man. He's so good. I don't care that he's 30. Again, these current athletes, we talked about it a little bit yesterday, but that the way that these guys train in the off seasons, they just keep themselves healthier for so much longer. No, he's not in his prime anymore, but who cares? Like, he's just so good still. And he hasn't shown anything yet to say, I'm coming down. I'm not as good as I once was, right? DeAndre Hopkins is a player who was very, very good for a long time, right? He's not in this tier because he's been banged up. His body's starting to degrade over time. Devontae Adams is not there yet. So, until he's there, use him. Win a title.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear that. I do not have Adams in my top 12.
Crazy.
I know. I've just been off of Adams. I'm not a very big Jimmy G guy. Unlike you, I get it's
I'm not a Jimmy
probably
G
more
guy.
of a
Don't put that evil on me, Ricky
well.
Bobby.
I will say that you are a anti Derek Carr guy.
That is
I
fair,
will
but
go
I'm
there.
also anti Jimmy Garoppolo because I think he's an idiot.
I will. That is very fair. I feel that Derek Carr is a better quarterback and a better field general than Jimmy G.
Mhm.
Personally, no, I mean that may not be saying a whole lot, but that's just how I feel. And I don't really think Jimmy G can throw the deep ball as well as what Derek Carr could,
I agree with you
or really
there
run,
for sure.
or really run a. I mean, Jimmy G can run a offense, but he's probably going to get injured week 3, is my guess. I just have a feeling that he's just going to get injured sometime this year, and then I'm not saying Adams will suffer from that because he is that guy, but I'm just been kind of off of him. I'm honestly surprised he finished wide receiver 3 in PPR leagues. That's shocking to me, because he actually had more targets than he did. It's the past 2 years in Green Bay,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't have as many catches as comparatively. So
Sure.
I get all of what you're saying, but I'm just kind of off of him this year. I don't like Josh McDaniels. I don't like offense. I just not a big Raiders guy. I'm just kind of off the whole team.
All right, so who's your number 7 guy then?
As my number 7, I have Tyreek Hill,
All
which
right,
is
so my number
probably going to
8. So we
be
can transition into that here.
yeah.
What are your
So
thoughts on
so
Tyreek?
it's with Tyreek Hill. I get he's kind of in the same age boat as Devontae Adams, but I feel he has the speed and the game breaking, more of a game breaking ability than what some of these other players may have. He is scary fast, and he's like 5, 6, 7 years older than some of these guys that we have ranked ahead of him. So, I feel that trumps a lot of age is speed. It's for instance like I think Darrell Green was the cornerback for it's for Washington, and I think he played until his upper 30s at cornerback, and was still lightning fast. So it's very very hard it's very very hard to teach speed, and with Hill, like he can be very up and down, but like when he hits, he's gonna hit hard and heavy, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why I expect him to do again this year,
Yep.
is to do that. So
Yeah, I'm with you. I have him one spot behind you, but similar to Devontae Adams, you just go back the last couple of years. I get it. Most of those years were with Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, but
mhm.
first year with Miami finishes as the wide receiver number 2 in PPR leagues. So
Yep.
it not a real step back. 170 targets was crazy. Only 119 catches was even crazier. That's a terrible catch percentage. But the fact that he had
I mean,
1,700 yards, oh my lord, man.
it's not as bad as what Devonte Adams had. Like he had 180 targets and what, like 100
100
catches.
catches, which is bad. Don't
So
get me wrong.
so
But
it's very bad.
that's
It's
the hospital ball
yeah.
from Derek Carr there. So,
That well, I will challenge that by like with Tua's wobble that he has, and he can't
Oh,
throw it over
that's fair.
5 yards.
That's fair.
So
That is fair.
let's tit for tat
No,
at that point.
but yeah,
So
Tyreek Hill. This is what and as much as Andy Reid is a very good coach. Don't get me wrong, and his offenses have always been top tier. But I think that the new age offensive coordinators like the Mike McDaniels, the way that they can scheme open players in the modern NFL is just wild, and that's what.
unbelievable.
Yeah, that's the Tyreek Hill was good with Andy Reid. He is insane with Mike McDaniel. So, you look at his game log and it's a little bit boomer bust, but wide receiver,
Yeah.
it's always like that. But I mean, when your lowest week is okay, week 3 against Buffalo, 5 points there. That was the rough week. There was not many points by anybody in that week.
Yeah.
But his second lowest game until they pulled him in weeks 18 was
Yeah.
13 points. I mean, that's good.
That's
That's
that
really
that
good.
is that is still a fantastic floor for anybody in
Right,
Dynasty.
right. So,
Anybody.
no, Tyreek Hill, he's already come out and said he wants to play 3 more years. He's going to play until 2025. I think that's 10 years in the NFL, and that's when he wants to retire. So he wants to do other things. I think he does the whole Twitch streaming and stuff like that. So he's got plans for after the NFL, and the dude's still really, really good. So invest in him. Again, you're not going to have him for
Absolutely.
more than 3 years, but go get like 2 titles with him, because I bet you people in your league are going to see, oh, he only wants to play 3 more years. I got to get out on this guy now. I got to sell him now. Sell,
Mhm.
sell, sell. And it's like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
buying. I would definitely be buying if he's on any sort of discount, because he's going to be able to just absolutely win you a league. And I talked about that with his teammate. We both have Jalen Waddle higher than him. You know, Tyreek Hill has a much higher ceiling than Jalen Waddle by far.
Yes.
But,
Yes.
the benefit is Jalen Waddle is 5 years, 6 years younger than Tyreek Hill. So, there's that upside there, that longevity. And when you finish it only 5 spots behind him in Dynasty rankings. Now, again, the points are different. Don't get me wrong. There's a
Yeah.
massive difference in points there, but, it's just give me the longevity there. That's why I like Jalen Waddle a little bit more. But Tyreek Hill is just a stud. So who's your number 8 then? Because he's my number 8.
All right. So my number 8 is Stephon Diggs,
Okay.
in Buffalo.
Saints.
In Buffalo.
All right. So basically, I have Devontae Adams up here, and then you have all the
Yeah.
other guys. So all right, let me
Pretty
hear.
much. Pretty much. All right.
You can
It's
kick it
it's
off on
it's
Diggs.
yeah. It's for Diggs. I love Diggs. I have loved Diggs ever since he was in Minnesota, and I feel with Josh Allen there that he has really exploded in his talent. And it's really been full circle for him. It's when he was in Minnesota, like he did have Kirk Cousins a little bit, and I think he had different quarterbacks in Minnesota. I can't think of all their quarterbacks. Oh, Teddy
Case
Bridgewater was one.
Keenum, and he had yeah, I think he had Teddy Bridgewater, and
Yeah,
then Kirk
yeah,
Cousins.
and Teddy. So like honestly, Josh Allen is the best quarterback he's ever played with, and it's really shown. It's the past 3 years. Like he's had finishes of 3-7-4. That's fantastic. I love that, and I really think he's going to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't know how long that's going to last. I think it's
His,
going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting if he starts to wear out his welcome like he did
I was
in
gonna
Minnesota.
say his
Yeah.
attitude problems, man. Like, oh goodness.
It can be major.
Yep.
It can be a problem. I don't disagree with that, but I think when he's on the field, and I don't think he's gonna have. I really don't think Buffalo's gonna get another. Well, if they do get a receiver, I don't think it's gonna affect him. It's gonna affect Gabe Davis.
I don't think they're
So
going to anyway. But
I
can
I
go
I
ahead,
I I
keep
don't really
going.
think they will either. I don't think they will either. Like they might get somebody third, fourth round potentially to kind of throw into the mix, but
Sure.
I'm not really, I but that doesn't worry me because I know he's gonna get those targets.
Right.
So
Right.
he was very solid. I think his low of the year was, I think it was the Cincinnati game
He
where
fell off
where
pretty hard at the
where we
end of
had,
the season,
yeah, he
which,
he, he did,
you
unfortunately.
know, like that's the one downside. I was looking at Josh Allen, but the last four of the last 5 weeks, I mean, Stephon
Yeah,
Diggs
they were
killed
pretty
you for
rough.
fantasy, and that leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths
It
when that
does.
does happen.
It
And
does.
that's honestly, that's probably why he was frustrated in the playoffs and everything. Like until
Hmm.
week 18, where he absolutely torched my Patriots. Um,
Yay.
he really didn't have a very good stretch there, and Josh Allen was
Right.
struggling a little bit in the back half as well. So that's the one downside. Now I was looking while you were talking at Josh Allen. Again, if you're not watching on YouTube, I implore you guys to go over and check out the YouTube channel, Dynasty After Dark YouTube channel. We got graphics, we got the sleeper cards up here, going through the week by week here. But sometimes we have other graphics on there. But yeah, you're welcome to come join the YouTube channel anytime. Just trying to grow it. Tell the podcast to one of your friends. We're just trying to grow it all off season, pumping out content nonstop for you guys there. Leave a like, comment, subscription, whatever. But yeah, he fell off pretty hard, and I've seen people down on him pretty heavily. I think that there's a pretty good buy window. I feel like Stephon Diggs is kind of in the Amari Cooper camp right now, where he's still really good for fantasy football, but people are just kind of tired of him. I mean, he's been in the league for 8 years now, and
Long time.
I was thinking, you said Josh Allen is the best quarterback that he's ever played with, but honestly, I think that Kirk Cousins is the best quarterback that he would have played with for his skill set, but he played with Mike Zimmer.
But,
Mike Zimmer killed it, right? So
I know you love Kirk Cousins.
No, I think for fantasy football, I think that he would have been very good for Stephon Diggs if he didn't have Mike Zimmer. That's he never got to experience Kirk without Zimmer. That's what sucks sucks for Diggs. But no, he's been very good with Josh Allen, and Josh Allen he's got such a cannon. That's where Diggs is able to utilize that a lot more as well. But yeah, I think Diggs is a good player. He's my number 8. Again, I think that he's going to win people titles, but man, if he has a fall off in the back half like he did last year, that's going to kill people. Like he was the number 4 wide receiver last year, and he had 4 weeks of 10 or less points. That's crazy that he was still that good. So that just shows you how good he can be on a regular basis. So Stephon Diggs, very, very good player, but he's got to get that attitude in check. He cannot be popping off any further. So, all right. So who's your number 8 guy then, or number 9 guy? 9 guys. Yep. Diggs is my 9. You're 8. Yep. Okay.
So at number 9, I do have my little Cooper Kupp.
Okay.
And yeah. He is on the list. Like I did switch things around kind of last minute. I mean, like I said in yesterday's show, I love Cooper Kupp, but I feel for these guys that are older but great wide receivers that he has the worst all. And
Fair.
that worries me because of potential opportunities, but also there's not a lot of competition in LA. So
right.
so that's kind of how I feel. I really wouldn't be surprised if Kupp had enough. I wouldn't be surprised if Kupp had another number 1 season in him, honestly. But I think I would rather have Hill or Diggs at this point in their careers than Cooper Kupp because of injuries. Like he's been injured before, and he's and that does worry me compared to Hill and Diggs, who have had some injuries, but they haven't missed as many games as what Kupp has.
Sure. And if you want my thoughts on Kupp, go watch yesterday's video. I had him at 6, so I was a lot higher than Dale is. I agree he belongs in this tier of players, basically, but I just didn't have anybody else that I was willing to put above this tier of players here. But, you look at his game log. If he hadn't gotten injured and gotten shut down by the Rams last year,
he was on track to have an amazing season again.
Yeah, I mean, he scored 200 points in 9 games. That's nuts. Nuts, man. That is nuts. Oh gosh. So yeah, Cooper Kupp is a stud. He's still gonna be a stud. He's not gonna, he's always gonna be a stud, but you got to have him healthy. So that's going to be the biggest thing there. So that said, my number, 10 guy now? Is that what we're on?
Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
Number 10.
Yep.
So my number 10 guy, I'm going out on a little bit of a limb here because this guy's not in the NFL yet. And I don't actually have a graphic to pull you up on Sleeper because...
Who do we got, Calvin? Give him
to
me.
It's going to be Garrett Wilson's teammate, Jackson Smith-Njigba,
Yes.
So I know you are very high on Garrett Wilson, and I understand it, but I'm going to be very high, and I'm going to stand for Jackson Smith-Njigba above Garrett Wilson because
that's fair.
Because when they were all playing together, they all said Jackson Smith-Njigba was the better wide receiver. He is the best wide receiver of the 3 of them, Olave, Wilson, and Jackson Smith. So if he's the better in college and he's going to be drafted in a weak wide receiver class to a desperate team, like whoever takes him is going to be wide receiver needy. I
Yes.
think he has a better situation than Garrett Wilson. If, for example, we talked about it a little bit yesterday, if the Jets don't get Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson might be legitimately screwed because they have nobody else that
Yes.
they can get at quarterback, right? But I like Garrett Wilson. He's my next player. He's my number 11. I have him one spot behind Jackson Smith and Jigba, but I'm giving the credit to Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think he's going to go as a top 15 pick to a wide receiver needy team. Whoever it is, whoever he goes to is going to feature him and his athleticism. Like, I understand he's not a burner, but it's crazy to
That
me.
does not matter.
Yep.
Neither is Cooper Kupp.
Right.
And he
Right.
is fantastic.
Yeah, it's the change of direction that's just so deadly, and it's hilarious to me, right? I was listening to a podcast this week talking about, rookie prospects and all this stuff. And it's like, oh, this guy, they were talking about Quentin Johnston, how he ran a 4.5 and that's not considered good. And I'm like, all the top wide receivers ran in the 4.5s. Like, what are we doing here?
Right.
AJ
right.
Brown, he ran a 4.49 or something.
Speed doesn't always matter in
No,
the NFL.
it doesn't. It does not. It's
Like, it
straight
matters
line
how you
speed.
use it. Yeah.
40-yard dash speed is not the same as on-field speed. Once these guys start doing this in pads where they're starting from a set position as a wide receiver, none of this really matters. It's all about who gets the best form for the 40. Who cares? Who cares? Like, oh, it's a 4.5. It's so good. You're talking about 0.2 of a second. Who cares? It's so frustrating. Like, it was just making me laugh. Oh,
Yeah.
Quentin Johnston
No,
ran a
I agree.
4.5, so he's not going to be good. It's like, what are we talking about here, man? Jackson Smith and Jigba ran a 4.5, so he's not going to be good. Oh, but he ran like a 10th,
Don't care.
like a 99th percentile
yes.
3-cone. Like, who cares,
Yes.
man?
I would much rather him run that 3-cone than to have like John Ross speed, because
Oh,
John
yeah,
Ross,
for sure.
yeah, like I would much rather have him have that change of direction, because that's more valuable in today's NFL than
Yeah,
someone just running
especially out
running
of the
down the sideline.
slot, right? Like, where he's going to
Yes.
probably play a lot. You know what I mean?
He's gonna thrive there.
Yeah, like CeeDee Lamb plays a lot out of the slot. And he's really freaking good. And he's got change of direction, but he's also got explosive big play ability. CeeDee
Right.
Lamb is known for some good special catches, but JSN, man, he's the total package. And that's why I have him number 10, one slot above Garrett Wilson. I'll
Love
quickly
that.
give my thoughts on Garrett Wilson here, and then you can kind of give your next couple guys here. Garrett Wilson, talked about him a little bit yesterday. I didn't want to spoil anything here because I wanted to save that reveal for right now. But I do like him. I like the talent. He's only 22 years old. Dude plays so big for his size. He looks like A.J. Brown, but he's way smaller. He's like 30 pounds smaller than A.J. Brown, right? So he just plays big. I think that he's got that dog mindset. He's just an alpha dog. And I think he's going to have a very good, successful career. I think it's going to be Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball, so I like him a lot for this upcoming season. But again, I just like the other guys a little bit more. I need Garrett Wilson to solidify things that with a top-tier quarterback. He was very streaky last year, but it was a merry-go-round of quarterbacks that he was playing with last year, and he was still pretty solid when he was given opportunity. So, I want to see him develop a little bit more in the NFL. I think he has that ability. So, I think that he's going to be just fine for fantasy football. So, Garrett Wilson, love the player. Have him one spot behind JSN. So, now you can give me your, 9, 10? I forget where we're at here.
Yeah, I'm at my 10. But
Okay.
So I will say about Wilson that you are criminally low on him, and I really hope you
Maybe.
eat your words at having him at 11.
Maybe. Hey,
Hope
when
you
those
do.
other guys retire, I mean, he's already top
Hey,
6,
that's
right?
true. That's true. That is very true. So, so like going back to JSN, like I have him ranked 12th only because we have not seen.
Yep,
That is
I
my
get it.
only
I get
caveat.
it.
And I don't think landing space or landing place is going to be super important, but I feel that whatever quarterback he's attached to is
Mhm.
important. And I've been seeing a lot of mocks that the Texans take Stroud at 2 and pairing
JSN,
him up, yeah,
yeah,
and pairing him up with JSN,
I
that's
love
gonna
that.
be that's gonna be fantastic,
Actually,
and
don't
that's
love
what I
that.
want to see.
I don't love that. I'm actually going to be dropping a fixing the franchise Houston Texans later this week, and I'm
Oh
not taking a
boy,
quarterback at 2. Just FYI, just a spoiler. So come check
I
out
know,
my my how I would fix the Houston Texans this upcoming draft.
right?
But I if that actually happens, I would not hate it. Let's just put it that
Yes,
way.
yes,
But
yeah. I mean, I yes.
I
Yeah, I
I
mean,
do like it a
I would
lot.
love to see that, and I think that would be the perfect place for those two to really grow
Yeah.
together and
Yep.
to be those franchise cornerstones. So,
Yep.
I did have him at 12. That was the only reason because we don't know where he's gonna be yet,
I think the
but
only
I'm
place that he
so
could
excited.
go, the only two places he could go that I've seen him mock to are the Eagles and the Titans at 10 and 11. I'm like, if he goes to either one of those, it's like that has to be the
Yeah,
worst case scenario. It
yeah.
really
I
does.
wouldn't hate it for the Titans,
I
but
would hate it for the Titans,
yeah,
100%.
yeah.
I would hate it less for the Titans than I would for the Eagles. If he goes to the Eagles, it's just like, dude,
Oh no, I do not. I think the Eagles would take Bijan
oh,
or
for
they would
sure.
take JS.
I'm with you, but I've seen
100%.
people mock them JSN. I'm just
That's
like, that'd be
insane.
so
That's
bad.
that's insane. So, all right. So at number 10, I have Amon Ra, the
Okay.
Sun God, Saint Brown. So, um, I'm very very excited about Saint Brown and what he did last year. I think he finished. I know he was
7.
finished seventh in seventh PPR leagues. It's coming off his rookie year. He finished 21.
Right.
So like he did have that sophomore leap, which we will probably see from Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and probably Drake London and hopefully Traylon Burks. So
Right.
I think he's very solid. I think the biggest thing I worry about is his concussions, and that's my big concern.
Yeah, yeah. I
But
see it.
yeah, that's the only thing I'm worried about because once you have one, you're that much more likely to have another one. So that does have a risk to it.
Yeah.
And I feel with him playing with Jared Goff in the dome is fantastic. That's where golf is going to be great
Yep.
and I feel they're going to throw a little bit more compared to last year
Right.
and they're just going to be a high flying offense, and I think
Mhm.
he's going to be the number one guy. I know a lot of people are on the Jameson Williams train, but I would much rather have him on Raw because he's your slot guy. I think he's
He's
still very
proven it too.
crafty.
Like,
Yeah, and he's proven that he's able to. And where I'm worried about Jameson Williams is that there is a lot of data that shows that like if you miss your first year that being such a highly touted wide receiver rookie that it doesn't always turn out well, and I kind of feel Williams uh Jameson kind of is trending towards, in my opinion, but that's a whole different discussion for
fair
so
enough. Fair enough.
but yeah, I'm very excited about Amon Ra. I think he's going to be great again. I
But
think
Dale,
he's very sneaky. He's very sneaky.
he was a 4th round pick.
I don't care. I really don't care.
Draft capital Twitter.
Yes. I
Great.
mean, I get it. I get it. All the analytics are there. All the analytics are there. But like, if you get a guy that can play and that has that dog in him, I think that's the most important thing.
Tutu
So
Atwell was a 2nd round pick in the same draft class. Did you know that?
yeah, and Tutu Atwell is 5'5", 105.
Yeah, he's ridiculously small.
Literally, he's the tiniest. He's one of the tiniest human beings that are playing in the NFL, and he's stuck on the special teams unit.
Yep. That's what cracks me up
Sucks.
about all the Tank Dell that's getting so much hype right now. It's like, dude, did we
It's
not
freaking
learn from Tutu
PFF.
Atwell?
It's
Did we?
it's the PFF
I
garbage.
know it's
He's
bad,
like
dude. It's
he's
bad.
5'8", 150 pounds or something.
Yeah, he's tiny.
He's gonna
165,
he's
I think.
he's gonna get
165.
eaten alive in the NFL. It's gonna be sad to see. Like, I mean, like I've been seeing him mocked in like the second or third round. I'm like, I would much rather have other, but
Yeah.
again,
Dude, I was listening to a mock
again,
draft by PFF the other day, and they wanted to take
oh
him in the
god.
1st. I was like,
Of course they did. Of course they did because they're psychotic and they
Yeah.
don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're going
Yeah.
off of dumb analytics, and they love other players that are
PFF grade.
horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My last player in my top 12 is actually Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I'm right there with you.
Like it.
He's my number 12 player. I do have him a little bit above Jameson Williams. I understand this argument that people are using for Jameson Williams, but like to me,
Yeah.
it's the dumbest argument because you
That's
drafted
fair.
him. You drafted him knowing that he's not going to play because he had a torn ACL. He had a
Right.
torn ACL. He tore it at the end of the college football season, like the last game, I
Yeah.
think, right? Or the second to last game, whatever it was. So
I think it was a championship game.
yeah,
No, yeah, it was a semifinal.
yeah.
I think it was the semifinal.
So, you knew he was injured. The Lions traded up to number 12 overall. The guy played like no snaps. He had a grand total of 9 targets. And this, I'm going to put out that's probably going to be my last video on this week because I needed something else. Maybe I'm going to talk about Jameson Williams. Like the argument for why people are freaking out on him is so stupid. Oh, he didn't get any targets. Yeah, the Lions were trying to make a playoff run. They can't really get a guy that has not been able to practice the entire offseason up to speed on the field. He had no reps at all the entire season,
Right.
and they're making a playoff run. You want him to just throw this guy out there? Like, he does need to learn things still, right? Like, it's crazy. It is crazy. He has 1 catch for a 41-yard touchdown. That's all he has so far. That's pretty freaking good. So, whatever. I'll save Jameson Williams for a separate video. But who's your last guy here for your top 12?
Yes. Yeah. So for my last guy at 11, I have Chris Olave.
Mm-hmm.
I love Chris Olave. I really like ever since he was at Ohio State and did what he did. Like he has just the smoothest routes I've ever seen. Like he's just so crafty in that, and I think he's a little bit different than Jackson Smith and Jigba in that like I get Jason he's a lot quicker, but I think Chris Olave is more of the Keenan Allen type where he's able to just find the holes in the defense, able to sit there, able to has good steady hands. I mean, I do feel Derek Carr is an upgrade compared to Andy Dalton.
How dare you, sir?
I know. Shame on me. But I honestly do feel that. So, and with Michael Thomas potentially being out next year,
Is he going to be back?
Out of New Orleans as of the following year, as of the following year.
Fair enough.
Like they were able to restructure his contract for the 27th time. And be able to move some money around. So I don't think there's a lot of competition for Olave, and I think he's just going to eat up targets, and he's going to be fantastic again. And I think he's just going to take that sophomore leap that we see, and he's going to be great.
Yeah, Olave was the one where I felt a little bad about not having him top 12, but when you compare him to like Devontae Adams, I just think Devontae Adams, you're going to be able to win titles with Devontae Adams compared to Chris Olave.
Yeah.
The Saints are just, they're in the worst, they're trending in the worst possible direction, right? Like, I get it. People are excited about Derek Carr coming over here, but he's not that big of an upgrade over Andy Dalton. Like, Derek Carr is not that good of a quarterback. And I get, he was always really, really good. If you're watching on YouTube, I've got it pulled up right here. Josh McDaniels is considered one of the best, like, offensive minds in the NFL. Second, probably to like Sean Payton, when he was around for the New Orleans Saints. Now, the New Orleans Saints don't have Sean Payton anymore. They don't really have that great of an offensive mind leading this team. I don't think they have a very good coaching staff in general. And you take into account all the salary cap shenanigans that they do every year. They cannot draft, they cannot bring in a good free agent player. And the only reason they brought in Derek Carr is because they were willing to pay him a decent amount of money, and they were willing to pay him out heavily front loaded in salary or in signing bonus so that they could kick it all down the road and spread it out well into the future of his contract, right? So he got paid a lot of money very quickly. It's just, I don't think Derek Carr is that good. You go back to last year and he started pretty well, but he just left a lot on the table with the Raiders. I don't think he's going to save this franchise. You look at the talent that this team has. And again, Chris Olave is great. Michael Thomas, he hasn't been healthy in like 2 years, 3 years now. They've got Juwan Johnson at tight end. Alvin Kamara is going to be suspended, so they've got Jamal Williams and Eno Benjamin at their running back position. Their offensive line is getting old. They've got, I think, a good tackle in Ryan Ramczyk, and then they've got another guy on the right side that's pretty decent, but they're starting to fall apart on the offensive line. Their defense is 85 million years old. They're just aging out in the worst possible ways, and they have no money to bring in any sort of difference maker or notable players any single offseason. So it's like, I don't know, New Orleans is just trending in the worst direction. And as good as Chris Olave is, I get it. He doesn't have a lot of targets, but that can also be a negative for a young player like Olave, right? Because he's not an established wide receiver who is going to be able to just bully NFL corners around. He's still finding his way into the NFL, right? And he does not have the same respect that some of the other players, like a Devontae Adams, a Tyreek Hill, these kind of players where they can do whatever they want with NFL corners because they've earned it, right? Chris Olave doesn't really have a good mentor for him, and he's trying to figure it out all on his own. So I don't love the situation for Chris Olave. I think he's going to be fine. I just don't think that he's ever going to return on the potential that he has, unfortunately. And I really like Chris Olave. I just think he's going to get wasted here in New Orleans. So I'm down a little bit. He's a wide receiver 2. If we get into the later rankings later this offseason, maybe I'll have him fully fleshed out. But as of right now, he's my wide receiver number 15, 16. So it's not bad by any means. I just don't really see. I don't see the potential for him to jump up. That's the only downside with Chris Olave. And I like Chris Olave. It's just, it makes me sad. It really does.
No, I get it. And well, and then in the wide receiver landscape, I feel there's so many guys that can have a wide receiver 1 a week.
Yeah.
That it's unbelievable. So like you're really just kind of get nitpicky with stuff and really,
right.
And then really ranking guys on who you prefer and you like their situation more, and stuff like that.
Yeah, like I have Drake London and Jameson Williams above Chris Olave, but I mean, again, it's nitpicky stuff, right? So, Chris Olave, good player. I just don't know if he's going to be able to return. Now, this year will tell a lot about Chris Olave. If him and Derek Carr have can establish a very good connection, it's going to answer every question that I possibly have. But, until I see it, I just can't blindly put it on this team.
That's extremely fair. I understand that.
No, it's a good list, though. So real quick, let's recap our top 12 here. You can jump in here first while I pull up my list. Go ahead and give me your top 12.
All right, so at 1 I got Justin Jefferson, 2 Jamar Chase, 3 CeeDee Lamb, 4 AJ Brown, 5 Garrett Wilson, 6 Jalen Waddle, 7 Tyreek Hill, 8 Stephon Diggs, 9 My Little Cooper Kupp, 10 Amon-Ra St. Brown, 11 Chris Olave, and last but not least at 12 Jackson Smith and
all right, and I got Jefferson, Chase, Lamb, Brown, Waddle. And I got a little bit of a tier break there between Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs. And then I've got JSN, Garrett Wilson, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And it's crazy. Like, we didn't even talk about Chris Godwin. We didn't talk about DK Metcalf. No. We didn't talk about, so many. That's why it's good. It's a good time to be wide receivers.
Staples. Yeah.
Yep. But no, let us know your thoughts on these top 12 guys. Again, maybe this offseason we'll get into our wide receiver 2 rankings a little bit more and kind of flesh out some of those guys. Because, again, there's a lot of youth there, but there's a little bit more potential as well. So let us know your thoughts over on Twitter, on YouTube, wherever you're listening to the podcast. If you can leave a review, like, comment, subscribe, whatever. Last pitch for that. But let us know your thoughts and, whether you agree with these top 12s, who you would have in your top 12, and who you think we're absolutely wrong on. Like T. Higgins didn't make it into our top 12.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, I think that he's a little overrated for Dynasty, but yeah, let us know your
Agreed.
thoughts on these guys whenever you get a chance. Thank you guys so much for listening, and until next time, have a good night.